I want to trust you, but I don't. Moving forward, when you're skeptical of others, afraid of what God will allow, and doubtful of your own discernment. Oh, okay. Um, Chapter 5. And I didn't want to be alone. As the months turned into years after my divorce, the number one question I got was, when are you going to start dating? Dating? That felt like such an awkward word to me. Dating me? I'm a mom of 5 grown children. I'm a grandmother. I'm a Bible teacher. I was married for almost 30 years. This woman was married 30 years and her husband cheated on her. Don't like you. No viewers? That's crazy. Whatever. Dating me. I'm a mom of 5 grown children. I'm a grandmother. I'm a Bible teacher. I was married for almost 30 years and suddenly I wasn't. I didn't want to try again. I didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want to risk getting hurt again, and I didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want to get closely connected to another man that his choices, which I have no say in, could unleash devastating consequences in my family life, and I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to engage in the level of trust required for romantic closeness. And I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to share my closet again. And I didn't want to be alone. In theory, I knew I wasn't alone. I had very close relationships with people. I had a solid tribe. And I knew there were people I can count on. But there were some moments when I felt so intensely alone, it was physically painful. I felt lost in my loneliness. I felt odd, sad, awkward, and like I didn't quite fit into the life we previously had built as a couple. Alone doesn't just mean when there's no one around. Sometimes alone means you're carrying the weight of something harder by yourself, and people around you are supportive, but they can't truly understand the gravity of what it feels like to be you. They can't understand the full weight of being a single parent, taking on the bills and other responsibilities that used to be shared. People genuinely care, but who wants to always hear a sad answer every time they ask, "How are you?" At some point, I just started saying I was good because another answer sounded like a pitiful broken record. I knew people weren't pitying me, but I constantly talking about my hardships made me feel small, incapable, and like the sum of my life was the fallout from this divorce. Plus, some of their suggestions weren't realistic, and sometimes their thoughts on what I should do felt void of a true understanding of how very broken my heart was. It's hard to rally and get on with things when every move you make feels so risky. Like you're navigating a foreign land with no map and no guide, and the intense fear of others judging you for not taking their advice. Sometimes it just feels safer to keep your thoughts to yourself. And when you don't have someone to process this stuff with alone, it's hard to rally and just get on with things when every move you make feels so very risky. Danielle, hello. Means a whole lot of hard thoughts and questions and fears staying all tangled up inside you. If you go to bed without confusing thoughts, you'll wake up with if you go to bed with confusing thoughts, you'll wake up with confusing emotions. And you can quickly spiral without someone to bring balance and assurance. This loneliness wasn't just my thoughts. It had played out in very physical way. When you're alone, there's no one to help you decide if the strange noise you heard in the middle of the night warrants a call to police. If you dare to check and to see what it is, you're doing that on your own. You're shaky. But last time it was just a branch that was tapping your window. It's probably something like that again. But what if it isn't? Aloneness can be scary. Also, when a person who was the was closest to you is suddenly no longer there, you get caught off guard by how much the world expects you to have someone who you can count on if something happens to you. I remember the first time I was filling out some paperwork that required me to list my emergency contact. My chest tightened, my stomach clenched. I'd lost my emergency contact. To everyone else filling out the paper, the doctor's office is just another annoying form attached to a clipboard. To me, it was another shock, another loss, another way to grieve. And then there was a vacation with beautiful scenery. I wound up being the photographer for all the couples who were on the trip with me. In the few pictures I had taken of just me, I looked like I had forgotten how to stand normally. My hands and my stiff hands had no clue where to go. Then there was the RSVP situation, which is the lesser of two difficult choices. Should I should I check plus one, knowing good and well the chances of almost 100% that I'll be attending alone? Or should I just state that I'm coming alone, which felt intense way of once again announce that I'm the divorced friend? I was surrounded by couples, and I love that until it hurt. I started to feel like the little corner of my world I lived in was built for couples. Two people, two people who got together, sit together, stand together, travel together, pose together, arrive together, and leave together. A table for two, every restaurant hostess would ask. No, just one, just me. There were times this was okay, but then there was times where it was a reminder of a huge loss in my life. My ex had already moved on, and there was another woman sitting in the seat I used to occupy across from him. Fuck that! No. I'm so good. You cannot convince me to get in a relationship. You cannot convince me to get into a relationship. No, you cannot. What? Fuck out of here. I no longer wanted to be in that seat, but it still feels shocking. Others felt it too and offered sweet sentiments that should have made me feel seen, but instead made me feel weird. My heart breaks for you. Please know I'm praying for you often. I can't imagine how hard this is. There's nothing wrong with these statements. I'm sure I've said the versions of the same well meaning sentences to others. It's just that I was already feeling like somehow this divorce had not just made me feel intensely alone, but also diminished who I was and how people saw me. And maybe I most tragic, how I saw myself. I wanted to I wanted to shake loose the word divorce from my life. But there it was, very every day, every new day. So back to the most dreaded question of all. When are you going to start dating? The thought of adding dating into the mix? No, thank you. The risk of getting my heart and trust broken again? No, thank you. The fear of adding more drama and more dysfunction and more reasons for people to feel sorry for me? Absolutely not. My decisions not to date was multi-phase, but I was really honest about it. Didn't feel like inviting people close who would who would be highly unpredictable. I knew if someone else could get close enough to be known as my new person, I couldn't control life nearly as much as I wanted to. When we have our trust broken, it's tempting to replace trust with control. If I can control it, I don't have to deal with my trust issues. And when I say, hi, Priscilla, I don't know if you're still here. I feel like Isaiah was here real quick. control, I mean to do everything I can to keep things as predictable as possible. If I say stay in control situations, then I falsely believe I can avoid the risk of trust. I realize your next step forward may not be in the dating area, but this plays out in other ways as well. At work, I don't have to trust someone who will do their job. If I'm micromanaging their tasks in my friendships, I don't have to trust that I won't be disappointed or be a disappointment to someone if I keep my conversations from getting too deep and only get together with them occasionally. However, this translates into fear and around trust. I want to validate how scary it can feel to trade the predictability we want for the risk of relationships with no guarantees. I wanted what felt predictable so badly that I was willing to miss out on all that might be possible. I thought if I can control the risk, I can't engage with a relationship in any kind of depth. Sometimes it's smart not to have deep conversations when we are dealing with people who we can't remove from our lives, but who have proven themselves untrustworthy. But it's not smart when it becomes our thinking around everyone. When we find ourselves trying to control the narrative in all of our relationships, us arm's length statements like, this opportunity sounds good, but honestly, I'm not even sure I want it. He sounds like a great guy, but I'm not sure I'm interested. I like to get to know this person better. I got a lot on my plate right now. I know we're supposed to do this project together, but I just went ahead and did most of it since I had the time. All these sounds reasonable responses, but are they really true? Sometimes I would act like I didn't want something or that I prefer to do it alone rather than risk more disappointment. Oh shit. However, if what I'm saying on the outside doesn't match what I'm feeling on the inside, then I may be trying to control the situation and the narrative around it, or at least give the illusion that I am in control. In a later chapter, we are going to dig deeper into what we do, and the lack of trust makes us want more control. But for now, let's just acknowledge it's really hard to trust someone new when doing so could mean us feel the subject to a situation we can't control. I told everyone around me I would never consider dating again. Dating felt like a huge leap into the unknown that terrified me. But each time I said never, something would flinch inside me. I had desires that conflicted my never statements. My refusal made me feel in control, which felt great until these moments when I longed for someone to love me again. I had even declared no dating for me on a popular podcast after I've been single for nearly 2 years. Then the gal interviewing me suddenly turned an interview from me giving advice to me receiving advice. She was so loving and had me crying by the end of the interview. I still couldn't wrap my head around the possibility of dating. But there was something about this podcaster said that wouldn't leave me. The theme of her advice to me is it's never too late. I had somehow bought into the notion that the end of my marriage meant the end of me never feeling truly loved, truly treasured, and truly chosen. I guess as a Bible teacher, I'm supposed to say God is the one who makes all of this true for me. Yes, I agree. And my heart also longed for this from a man too. My podcast friends' never too late statement stuck to me, hung on to me, sometimes annoyingly glued to my thoughts. Never too late. Ugh. The minute I could admit that I did desire to be loved by someone. My fears around trust made me quickly exhale and shake my head. After enough time has passed, so people wouldn't connect the dots. The podcaster gave her listeners updates on her hopes for me by calling me never too late. It was weird to listen to her podcast and know that she was secretly referring to me. But it's comforted me that someone believed in good possibilities for me. She didn't pity me. She didn't pressure me, but she also didn't play along with my plan to reduce my possibilities for the future to only what I could control. She could she just kept reminding me that there was more to my life than what I can see for myself. It's good to have at least a few friends who are bold enough to pray big prayers and see big things for you. But when you are healing from a broken heart and broken trust, it's really important these are friends who are also wise enough to not put under pressure on you and also still let you walk through your process. I felt safe enough with my never too late friend to let her have the dreams for me that I wouldn't allow myself to have. Another one of my friends, Mel, wrote in her journal what she clearly felt good was showing her about my future. One night we were playing cards on my back patio, and I told her, I think I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life, and I don't think I could risk getting hurt again. Mel listened without interrupting as I continued. Maybe over time I'll get used to being single. I mean, one cool thing is I won't have to share my closet. I smiled, and then my smile started quivering until tears rolled down my face. No words would come out. It was hard to move forward when I really want something with my distant past. Something that I couldn't reach, that I couldn't touch, but that is still very alive in my memories. In my case, I didn't want to get back the person in my past. I wanted to get back into the innocent thoughts I had about my marriage. I wanted to get back to the feeling of knowing I had a person. I wanted to get back the feeling that I could trust the person to have my best intentions in mind. I wanted to get back the feeling of safety that what person had invested in their life together was enough that they'll protect our vision because they wanted it as much as I did. Of course, my memories from back then probably contained more ideas of how I wanted things to be than how they actually were. But still, the pictures in my mind were all of the time when I felt more confident about my future would look like. Now it's all that I constantly turning corners without any clue whether I was going to feel good about what I saw or terrified of what was waiting for me. Mel, you were in a good place. You've done so much healing work. You have processed and prayed and spent time counseling. You've taken time. I know you enough to know that this is one sad night is not what I've been seeing the past 2 years. You're no longer consumed with the past. You used to talk about what happened over and over and over with me, but you're not there anymore. I see you looking forward with joy, laughter, and hope. I think you are ready to date. And I feel like God showed me was that it wasn't much longer for you. Nothing changes for another long stretch of time. I didn't have an epiphany that suddenly made me courage enough to open up more possibilities for my future. I didn't turn one corner where I realized controlling isn't a long term replacement for trusting. I didn't wake up one day with a neon sign telling me I was ready to start dating. My friends thought I was ready. My counselor thought I was ready. But I couldn't believe it for myself until I took a step, a baby step, a small decoration step where I stopped letting my fears hold me back, where I stopped doubting my own discernment. Sometimes we sometimes when you get shockingly bad results from past decisions, it can make you hesitate to trust that you're capable of making wise future decisions. Trusting myself to call out concerns and not look past them or feel pressure into thinking I'm making a big deal out of nothing was a mistake I didn't want to repeat. Could I trust myself to see things more clearly, to my name, what I saw, to choose not to wait until a red flag was a full on fire before calling it red? I wasn't sure. I was, and I never would be sure as long as I was trying to analyze my readiness. I would have to try it inside the context of real life with real people. The first baby step I took was to stop using the term never. It wasn't a step into a relationship, not a step into declaring I was ready to trust someone, not a step into saying I was even ready for dating. Just a baby step towards being able to open to the possibilities, and a baby step away from doubting myself. Ironically, I was with Mel again one random afternoon when another friend texted me and said, "No pressure at all, but would you ever consider going out with a friend of my husband? Great guy. Love Jesus. Loves Jesus." I laughed, read the text to her, um and immediately started typing back a polite refusal. Mel kindly and softly said, "Lisa, maybe this is good. Safe baby step. Maybe it'll be wonderful and you'll feel a peace from God and a sense that, yes, this is the right first step. Or maybe it will be awful. And this isn't right for now, right? For right now. Or maybe it'll be somewhere in between." I keep biting my fucking self. Mel kindly and softly said, "Lisa, maybe it's a good, safe baby step. Maybe it'll be wonderful and you'll feel a peace from God and a sense of yes, that this is the right step. Or maybe it'll be awful and this isn't right for now. Or maybe it'll be somewhere in between where you aren't sure what you need time to figure out and this is right for you." I gripped my chair. Mel continued, "I don't have you don't have to make any big decisions about trust right now. You don't have to decide you are willing to risk giving your heart to someone and jumping into the deep end of a relationship. Just take one step towards moving forward." That was a shift I needed. I didn't have to define one my future in order to step into the future. I didn't have to decide if dating was going to be a part of the plan or not. But I also didn't need to limit what the future could look like. I want to trust you, but I don't. Chapter 5. But I also didn't need to limit what future could look like. No matter how good my illusions of keeping myself safe by trying to stay in control seemed, they didn't work. The future is coming, whether I wanted to or not. And the future, just like the present, will have a whole lot that is completely out of my control. It's like when I was a little girl, I got scared of getting off the escalator. To my little eyes, the sharp edges disappearing into the place where I was supposed to get off felt like a monster's teeth. So I started going back up the forward moving stairs, but I went up the stairs, kept going down. I couldn't keep up. It was forcing me forward. And it was riskier to have the escalator force me off at the end than it was for me to jump off the end. I was afraid, but I still stepped off. I didn't get eaten by the monster's teeth. There was no monster. All I had to do was take one step. And so I did. It wasn't all rosy and wonderful, but it also wasn't all horrible and treacherous. Bonus, I didn't freak out or pass out. It was one foot in front of the other, and the rhythm of moving forward actually felt way more empowering than I ever thought possible. One more thing I want you to know. Can I trust this person? Is a big question. The more we feel pressured internally and externally to give a definitive answer, the riskier the outcome will feel. How can you know what someone else has broken your trust is now to a place to be responsible with your trust? It will take time. Remember, the bigger the betrayal, the longer the repair will take. How can you know if a new person in your life is trustworthy? It all will take time. It's fine. Some chili dogs. Damn, Gavin was tapping up a screen. There we go. How do you do? How do you know you can trust yourself to properly discern trustworthiness when you've gotten it wrong before or made it feel crazy for asking questions when things didn't make sense? Again, it will take time, but time itself isn't enough. Just to reiterate, building or rebuilding trust requires a combination of three things: believable behavior, record of trustworthiness, taking baby steps, allowing for all three of these things to happen. In my own life, I knew I was going to be able to re engage with people who had broken my trust in my past, or if I was going to consider a new relationship. It wasn't going to happen overnight. I also knew I was going to learn to trust my own ability to have wise discernment and establish my own confidence to hear from the Lord. It would need to happen slowly. Isaiah 30:19-21. It had been such a comfort for me as I take these baby steps towards trust. I'm not doing the roar. Go away. Um, People of Zion who lived in Jerusalem, you will weep no more. How gracious he will be when you cry for help. As soon as he hears you, he will answer you. Although the Lord gives you the bread of adversity and water of reflection and teachers that will be hidden no more. Your own eyes will see them, whether you turn to the right or to the left. Your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." The principle of these verses is that God does respond to us when we cry out to them. The right and left mentions man. As long as you stay within the will and command of God, you're headed in his direction and you're going to hear him. He will guide you. In other words, the goal is to live a life of congruity where your life lines up with God's word. But what about the slowness of this whole trust process? About how painful is it? How painful it can be in the waiting to see if someone is trustworthy or not. The historical context of these verses gives me great comfort in the face of these understandable questions. Isaiah was answering the Israelites in a seasons of waiting. The idea is the waiting can be lonely and at times can feel defeated. Waiting can also make us feel extremely anxious when there are so many unknown. But remember this, when we are waiting on God, we are actually waiting with God. The fact that the teacher is behind us brings the mind the nearness of God. One Old Testament scholar said it in this way: a word behind you conveys both the nearness of God and the sensitivity of the Pope. When I asked my friend Dr. Joel about these verses, he said, the attentive nature of the follower and the of God who desires to be led by God is important here. The New Testament develops this further with the concept of the spirit-filled life of believers. We are led by the Spirit not based on our own ambitions, but the vision and direction of God. Galatians 5:16-21 and John 16-13. And if we get it wrong by turning left or right outside of God's will, then this takes place. God will call out and get us back on track. One of the things that is often overlooked in this fact is Isaiah didn't expect perfection. He assumed that there will be amounts of error. Sometimes we will go astray. And when that happened, as long as our heart was willing to receive correctness, we can be sure that God will redirect us. Van! Hi! I don't know if you're still here. You look great. Thanks. Remember, when we have our trust broken, it's tempting to replace trust with control. Alone doesn't just happen when there's no one around. Sometimes alone means carrying the weight of something hard by yourself. It's hard to relay and get on with things when every move we make feels so risky. It can be scary to trade the predictability we want for the risk of relationships with no guarantees. Sometimes we get shockingly bad results from bad decisions. It can make you hesitant to trust that you're capable of making wise future decisions. Why the fuck that people who are blocked, I'm seeing to invite them? I don't like that. That's weird. Okay. Receive. People of Zion who lives in Jerusalem, you will weep no more. How gracious he will be when you cry for help. As soon as he hears, he will answer you. Although the Lord gives you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, your teacher will be hidden no more, and your own eyes will see them. Whether you turn it to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk into it. Isaiah 30:19-21. But when he, the Spirit of the truth, comes, he will guide you into all the truth. He will not speak on his own. He will speak only what he hears, and he will tell you what is yet to come. Does the slowness of the process of trusting someone feel difficult for you? Why do you think that is? The bigger the betrayal, the longer the repair will take. How does the statement sit with you, and have you found it to be true within your life? Pray. Lord, you know my desire to have close relationships based on truth and goodness. You know my tendency to try to control my circumstances and people around me when things look scary and unknown because of what I've been through. Help me step forward as the healed version you see in me, the one you're making me into. This feels messy and unpredictable. but I know I can trust you in the ways you are working on me and for me. I pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. What's up, Perry the Platypus? We are done with this chapter. Tomorrow is chapter 6. Alexa, play. He tells you that he loves you. You never heard that before. Can't figure how you ended up with